You know, we hear it all the time. We're living in the age of data. But let's be honest, that data usually looks like a giant wall of numbers, maybe a spreadsheet with millions of rows. It's overwhelming. So how do you get from that raw noise to an actual insight? Well, that's what we're digging into today. How to turn numbers into a narrative using visuals to tell a clear, compelling story that, honestly, anyone can get.
Right? You've heard this a million times. But when it comes to data, it is the golden rule. Think about it. Those 1,000 words could be a dense quarterly sales report or pages and pages of survey results. A single, well-chosen chart can deliver the punchline of that entire report in a single glance. It's just so much more effective than text.
And that's the real kicker, isn't it? With dozens and dozens of chart types out there, how on earth do you choose the right one? This isn't just about making things look pretty. Picking the right visual is all about matching it to the question you're trying to answer. You get it right, and suddenly you've unlocked this amazing insight. But if you get it wrong, you just end up creating more confusion.
Okay, so let's frame the problem we're all facing. We're drowning in data. It's data overload. The solution, as we're about to see, is to think visually.
This right here, this is the transformation we're talking about. On one side, you've got the raw data. It's abstract. It's overwhelming. Honestly, our brains just aren't built to find patterns in spreadsheets. But on the other side, that's the goal. A visual that taps into how our brains actually work, using things like color and shape to turn the abstract data into a tangible story.
Now, creating a visual like this isn't some kind of dark art. It's really just a series of choices. You pick a format, you select your data, but that third step, filtering, that's the secret sauce. That's where the storytelling really happens. By filtering for focus, you're not hiding data. You're just shining a spotlight on the part of the story that really matters.
All right, let's get practical. Probably the most common question we ask of our data is simply, how does this thing compare to that thing? For that, we turn to a whole family of visuals that are built specifically for comparing stuff.
And the undisputed workhorses for comparison are bar and column charts. Their power is in their simplicity. They let our eyes quickly judge the length of bars to compare values. It's super intuitive. But here's the thing. Even with this simple tool, the specific type of bar chart you choose can completely change the story you're telling.
For instance, one key storytelling technique is showing composition. You know, when you want to see how a total breaks down into all its different parts. The classic tool for this is a stacked bar chart. Each segment of the bar represents a piece of the whole, so you get a sense of the ratio at a quick glance.
But what if your goal isn't really about ratios? What if you want to make a fast, direct comparison between the categories? Well, in that case, breaking the values out into separate side-by-side bars, a clustered chart, is way more effective. Our brains are just so much better at comparing the endpoints of separate bars than trying to judge the length of little segments stuck inside a bigger bar.
Okay, so we've covered comparing static things. But what if the most important character in your story is time? You know, when the whole point is to show growth or decline or volatility, you're going to need a different kind of visual toolkit.
I mean, the line chart is the absolute icon of trend analysis, and for good reason. By connecting all those data points, it really emphasizes this feeling of continuity and flow. It makes it the perfect choice for showing a journey over time. It's not just a snapshot. It's the story of how you got from one point to the next. And if you want to add even more emphasis, you can use an area chart. It's built on the exact same idea as a line chart, but by filling in the area underneath the line, it gives you this really tangible sense of volume and magnitude. You don't just see the trend, you feel the weight of it.
Next up, let's tackle another super common challenge, showing how different parts make up a whole. When all your data adds up to 100%, what's the best way to show each piece's slice of the pie?
The donut chart and its cousin, the pie chart. They're instantly recognizable, right? They really excel at one thing, showing a percentage breakdown of a single category in a really simple, digestible way. Now, data experts love to debate them, but for a small number of categories, their meaning is just universally understood.
But what happens when you have a lot of categories, or even categories within categories? A pie chart just becomes a jumbled mess. This is where a tree map is so incredibly powerful. It uses the size of rectangles to show value,
letting you display really complex, layered data in a small space and immediately see the biggest players.
And I love this analogy for how to read a tree map. You look at it as though you're reading a book by its cover, from left to right to tell a story. It's so perfect. The biggest chunks are always in the top left, and the values get smaller as you move down and to the right. It's a story told through space and size.
So far, we've mostly been visualizing things we already knew we were looking for. But what about using visuals for pure discovery? How do you find relationships in your data that you didn't even know were there?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the most valuable insights aren't the obvious ones. They're the hidden connections between two totally different things. So how do you find those? Well, you need a chart that's built for exploration.
And that is the exact job of a scatter chart. By plotting two different variables against each other, it's literally designed to reveal relationships. You might suddenly see a clear line, showing a strong connection, like maybe ad spending and sales. Or you could find distinct clusters, different customer groups. Or, and this can be huge, you might spot that one critical outlier, like a single fraudulent transaction that stands out from thousands of normal ones.
So as we bring this all together, it becomes really clear that choosing a visual isn't just some technical step you do at the end. It is the analysis. It's the final, most strategic choice you make in how you're going to tell your data story.
This right here is the single most important takeaway. Let the question you're asking and the story that's hiding in your data drive your choice. You know, the biggest mistake people make is picking a chart just because it looks cool or impressive. The best visualization is always the one that gets the point across with the least amount of effort for your audience.
So how do you make that choice? Well, it all boils down to three simple things. First, what's the business question you're trying to answer? Second, what kind of data are you actually working with? And finally, what impact, what action are you trying to create for the person looking at it?
Look, every single data set has a story buried inside it, just waiting to be told. The only question is, now that you know the tools, are you ready to find that story and bring it to life? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.